we will have the trigger, obviously. The second, we will pick a topic and write the first dialogue to start the conversation loop in this. So these are the three key parts I highlighted here. The part one is where we have this conversation loop where the characters will talk to each other. And part two is where we convert the conversation from a chat file to a readable images. Part three is where we upload them to Instagram like a Carousel post. Let's get started. So the first thing is the trigger. So here I'm using, basically I usually operate this workflow from my Telegram account. You can also add this and test it from here as well, and you can also schedule it. Something like, this one. You can also have this scheduled, which will run every day. That's about the trigger. And yeah, picking a topic. How are we picking a topic? So we get the topics from Excel sheet. You can see I've just listed down a bunch of dating terms, which most people apparently are not aware of. I'm not sure if you are. Have you heard of cushioning? Have you heard of what is the DTR? DTR means define the relationship. Orbiting, love bombing, roaching, pocketing, paperclipping. There are lots of dating terms you have no fucking clue about. So yeah, I've collected these bunch of 50 dating terms, and this workflow picks up one term a day, and these characters will talk about that term. So I'm also having this flag, right? So it picks the terms which are not yet done. So I think the next workflow will pick up Gatsby. What is that? Posting something online just to get a specific person's attention. We all do this. Yeah, once we have the topic, then we have the conversation starter. Okay, here this is his system prompt. You can pause the video and take a screenshot. The goal of this particular agent is to start the conversation by writing one dialogue. I'll explain more about session ID later. So I'm just setting variables which should be passed. So the first dialogue, I'm giving that first dialogue to character B. It's like one of those characters must say the first dialogue, right? So it's that I'm saying the first dialogue is coming from character B. The second, this variable is defined to restrict the conversation loop to a limit. So 10 means the characters will have 10 exchanges amongst each other. History is the variable where we store the conversation the characters are having. That's about this block. Okay, next up, the most interesting part, which is my favorite part, is the conversation loop. So if you remember, we already wrote the first dialogue here, and we gave that dialogue to who? We gave that dialogue to the character B. Character B has the first dialogue written already. Now we enter this particular loop, and here is the starting node. What we read here is while conversation length is above 0. That means, if you remember, we have a conversation length, which is the number of interactions these two agents will have amongst each other, are limited to 10. And this while loop will keep running between these two characters until the length becomes 0. So that's what is happening here. You see the condition? Conversation length is greater than 0, then we move forward. So as a first step, what are we doing here? We are decrementing. We are passing the character B's dialogue as it is and decrementing the length of the conversation, defining the history. Now, here comes the first moment from character A. Here is the system prompt that is given to character A. You can pause and read briefly. Prompt for character A is the dialogue from character B. And The output from character A is saved here as a dialogue from character A, which is passed to character B as an input as expected. And this is the system message written for character B. I'm not diving into this because you can read it. So character B responds to the dialogue of character A. And then we combine the dialogue of character A, we combine the dialogue from character B, and we pass it to the next iteration, which is coming back here again. So right after it receives, see there is one arrow going to the history node where we are collecting all these dialogues. Right? So this happens for about 10 times since we've defined it, the length to be 10. We can literally see how this is going to go now. So it's writing the first dialogue here. It will come here very soon. See, you can see the loop, the way they are running. It's a quite complex workflow, but once you see the code and how it is connected, it'll be easy. You could also see at the end of this loop, we'll have 10 responses from character A, 10 responses from character B, and 20 memory items, because each agent have to memorize both of the dialogues, right? So if you see this character A has 20 pieces of memory, this character B has 20 pieces of memory. And you can also see the history. This is the history of the whole conversation. This is how the conversation happens between the two agents. Okay. The next part is converting the chat file to images. I think you remember we have a node which is collecting and saving the history. The history will be passed down to this node, which will convert to a chat format. What is a chat format? This is something I created for convenience. So which has 3 properties. One is timestamp, the other is sender, the third one is message. Timestamps helps me keep the messages in the chronological order. And the sender helps me distinguish whether to keep the message on the left-hand side of the screen or the right-hand. And the message, as you know it's a dialogue from the character. So once we have this array, now this particular node, Puppeteer node, I'm not sure if you've heard of it. Puppeteer is a browser automation tool which works like, so basically in this case, this particular node has 3 jobs. 1 is to initiate the browser, 2, build a HTML doc and render it, and 3, take the screenshots. So what it is doing first, it is taking the chat from previous node, right? So it builds the HTML document, right, using the chat object, and then here it is initiating the browser with a viewport of resolution 1080 by 1080. Why 1080 by 1080? Because Instagram post resolution is that. And the third property here is device scale factor. Device scale factor helps you decide the resolution of the browser that it has instantiated. Right, 2 gives you a much better resolution than 1. That's why I'm using 2. Now the next part. Now we have the HTML document. Oh, here you can see the CSS as well, which aligns the messages left side and right side and gives the messages the different colors. As an end result, looks like this. Okay. Now we have the chat rendered in the browser. The next part is to take the screenshots, right? And we know the resolution of each screenshot should be 1080 by 1080 again. And we know the height of the chat is really long and it won't fit into single screenshot. So we have to take multiple screenshots. So here we have a for loop which will iterate through as long as the height goes. It takes multiple screenshots by shifting it's like a sliding window. Every time the screenshots will be stored in an array, with the unique name, where we are using the iteration number to create that unique name for the image. That looks like these. Let me show you how it looks like. Yeah, this is how it looks. You see? That's it. That's the job of this Puppeteer node. We can go to the next part. Now we have all the images we need. Okay, the next part and the final part is uploading the images what we just had from the Puppeteer node to Instagram, right? Since we already have images, it must be pretty easy to post images to Instagram, but I see most of the people struggle to build a carousel post, so I just wanted to explain here. So posting an image and posting a carousel post on Instagram are two different things. So Instagram, it's not straightforward basically. Okay. So here I think I have 4 images, right? So we have to first, okay, the rule number 1 with Instagram, you can't directly pass an image, right? You have to pass it as an URL, and the URL should be publicly accessible for Instagram to read the image and put it in Instagram. What I mean by that is the image have to be somewhere in the cloud plus accessible. My first attempt was to put it in Google Drive and use the Google Drive link. Again, that doesn't work with Instagram. So what I had to do, I had to use this service called Cloudinary. So Cloudinary provides you a free asset storage option that you can get links which are publicly accessible. The link should look something like this, right? You can also use the Cloudinary, but if you have too much of a data to store here, then you might have to start paying Cloudinary. Right now I'm in the free trial. That's the first step, which is having an image accessible somewhere, publicly accessible on the internet. Once you have I'm uploading my images from the Puppeteer node to Cloudinary. In loop number 1, I take the first image, I put it in cloud, and then upload to IG. Okay, let me hide my layer token a little bit. So this is the call you have to make. This is your application ID /media and the bearer token you have. And the image URL you should pass as one of the body parameters, and is carousel item should be true. This is one thing you have to keep in mind, so that it knows that it is part of a carousel. And it gives you one ID that you can refer later. Basically, we call that as a child ID. And here I'm collecting so this is an aggregator node which you can use when you have to collect a bunch of items together and keep them in an array. That's about the first loop, and we do the same thing and we collect all the IDs and we store them in the children array, which you see it here. So these are all the image IDs Instagram has given us. Then the next step will be creating a container. Creating a container is basically saying that these are the images I want to be in that carousel. Okay, this is not, here you will not upload any media, here you will just initiate a container. And you say the media type is carousel, and you will pass all the children IDs as children parameter in the body. Caption, I'm not passing anything, but you can define caption as well. Here is the final part where you publish that specific container, which is the carousel. So here we are, I think we reached almost the end. This is not really a big deal. So here I'm making this post topic by topic, right? So I have to mark the post as done so that I won't repeat it the next day. This is what I'm doing. If the post was successful, I'm marking it as yes in the Google Sheet, and then uploading. I'm just sending a message back to me saying that the upload is successful. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions in any part of the workflow, just put a comment down there and I'll be very happy to explain. Let me know first if you need this workflow to understand it better. Just comment in the chat, I'll share the workflow with you. Thanks for watching.